This is All the Things with Michelle Wolf.
Well, thank you for joining us today. Welcome to All the Things. I'm Michelle Wolf. This is part of our Mixtape Memories behind the music, behind the scenes, author interviews. Today I'm joined with Denise VanBriggle. Denise, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Denise VanBriggle, and I am a former teacher. I think that's probably where I should begin. I was an English teacher for many, many years. Prior to that, I worked in government, so I had solid career in public service before I entered teaching. And when I retired from teaching in 2011, I um, really, I think my spiritual gifts and talents and proclivities really emerged. And so um, I felt free to pursue all of these sort of spiritual, mystical, um, even including myself as a writer, my writing self, because I went into teaching thinking that if I was an English teacher, it would allow me a lot of time to do my own writing, which was the biggest fallacy of all. I spent many years in the classroom and I loved teaching, but all my time and energy was devoted to my students. So it wasn't until I retired in 2011 that I would say my personal writing really, I would say, blossomed. And so I felt a sense of freedom that um, I hadn't felt up until that point, and it was almost overwhelming, the feeling that I had that the world really was my oyster and I could do with it whatever I wished. And so that's, as I said, when my spiritual gifts, I think, started to come online, sort of out in the open, because I felt public education kind of kept me in a little box. And when I retired, I didn't have those constraints. So it was really wonderful. So I just jumped in. There's your kitty cat, how cute. I just jumped in and started. The first thing I did was I got my Journey Dance certification, the first level certification for Journey Dance, which is a conscious dance movement. And I fell in love with the modality. And so I did the first, second, and third levels of that, became a Reiki master teacher. And I really went into Reiki thinking I need to balance the energies that came to me on the Journey Dance floor. That's why I went. I thought, oh, I'll do one level and that'll be it. And I'll just be able to, balance my own energy and I'll be happy as a clam. Well, as soon as I experienced Reiki, it was like, well, I want to share this. And so I went on to the second level. And then really the teaching part for me, because it just seems like it's part and parcel of, who I am. So while I didn't really see myself teaching Reiki so much, I just felt like it was a natural step. So I went on to get the third level and the teaching level. And then it was the shamanic work that really drew my heart when it was during COVID and we were shut down. And I just thought, well, I really need to, you know, engage myself because I'm a lifelong learner. And I just really felt that I needed that kind of stimulation, I would say, to keep myself healthy and balanced during that time. And so I enrolled in the Four Winds Society and did the online program. And that was great because honestly, I feel like I shouldn't say I feel like, I'm going to say I know that in many past lives, I was a healer, I was a shaman. And so, some people say, oh, don't call yourself a shaman, yeah. I don't subscribe to that way of thinking only because I know in my soul that because when I did the training, the shamanic training, there were certain processes that we were shown that I knew before they were even presented. So that for me was confirmation and validation. Now, do I hang a shingle out that says, I'm a shaman? No, but in my heart of hearts, I know that it's embedded deep within me. And so putting all of these things together, the dance, the Reiki, the shamanism. I just recently added Lotus Light Reiki, which is an ascension, an extension, I would say, of Master Yusui's work. And so I'm working with that energy as well. And so I'm blending all of these. And, it's funny because I'm sure people say, well, what does Denise want to be when she grows up? Well, I want to be all the things, which is perfect for the title of your podcast, right? But I've managed to blend them and not listen to the voices of people that say, you can't do all of these things, because the naysayers are out there. They're always going to be out there. But I live my life knowing who I am. And no, I think it's taken me 70 years. I'm going to tell you that. It's taken me to this present moment to really not worry about what other people think, because I know I'm going off track here a little bit, but I think it's important. My background when I was a young child was very traumatic. There was a lot of trauma. There was mental illness in my family, drugs and alcohol, mostly alcohol, I would say. Um, and so I was tamped down, and my voice, it's really strange for somebody who's a teacher, but my voice was really stifled. And I think one of the reasons I became a teacher is because I thought I'm going to have to speak, so this will be a good way for me to practice, because I was always one to remain, silent, try not to rock the boat. Yeah, I'm talking to you, and all of the trauma responses, and so it's just so important for me. And I think I've worked my whole life really to to use my voice in ways, and especially for my own my own edification, because I think I was always speaking on behalf of others, in the classroom. It was always about the students and that sort of thing. But when I would be confronted with, I would say, perceived authority, even if they did not hold any kind of higher, rank in my life, I would shrink, and I would I would just clam up. It would be like, oh, I can't. Even when I was in college, I would say I would find myself shrinking into the background, and sort of being timid about sharing ideas, that feeling that, they would be shot down or whatever. So it's been like a constant practice for me. And like I said, at 70, I feel pretty darn comfortable, in my own skin. And the journey dance has helped a great deal with that, because it really does help you get out of your mind and into your body. And my wish for everyone is to be authentic in their own skin, and to inhabit every inch of their beautiful selves. And if I can do anything at all to promote that, that's kind of, I feel, one of my purposes here in this lifetime.
I think that's probably why I feel such a resonance with you. And I think we have similar like life purpose work. I mean,
Mhm.
to what you were saying, I definitely, had similar experiences, even in college, like feeling like I needed to dim my light or shrink myself so that I didn't, I mean, like thinking about when I was growing up in like elementary school, I was that kid that like always raised my hand, that, and then people would call me the teacher's pet or whatever. And so I really like shrunk away from that. Like I didn't want to be that. So I didn't allow myself because I didn't want to stand out. I didn't want attention, which is
Right.
funny, but I love how you were saying, like, I can see how in your journey you have um, challenged yourself and your own expansion and your edges. And I feel like it's the same for me. Like, people will talk about, well, why do you feel like you need to share? And is it because you want to, just is it about attention or whatever? The thing is, it feels like a calling. Like, it feels like it's almost like a compulsion. And actually, I really don't, the attention is really uncomfortable for me. Like, I don't really like it at all. And I know that maybe doesn't make sense. And people might be like, well, then why do you do it? But it's like, if I don't do this, I can't turn it off. Does that make sense?
No, well, it makes total sense to me. I can remember you probably don't even remember this, but I think one of the first times I encountered you was actually online. You were at Nancy Bittinger's spot, and I want to say maybe it had just opened, and you were sitting. I see the stairs behind you. You were actually sitting on a staircase, and you were just doing this heartfelt share, and I just thought, I mean, I don't even know how we connected. It was probably, through the Book of Faces or whatever, but when I saw you share, and it was such a vulnerable share, and it really, it just touched me, and I thought, I would love to be able to do that, and, speak that way, to, I mean, total strangers on, I mean, you were just doing, I think, a live or whatever. And so anytime your content would pop up, I would watch it because I felt some kind of, real connection to you and still do. So I think that, I mean, that's a beautiful, beautiful beginning. And I actually, when I saw you last, was I think at Spirit of Oneness, which is coming up again in October. But it was like in the moment you came up, and I was working with the sound school that day because I also do sex. So I'm a therapeutic sound practitioner. To add that to my little list of, I guess, passions. But we were there, and Lana was there, and I don't know. I just thought, I know I missed the deadline for the book, but I'm just going to say something, and to you, and I did, and you were so gracious. You were like, "Yes, you can." I'm editing. You can slip in, and I think someone called it slipping in the backstage door, and I resonate with that because that's really clearly what I did. But I thank you for that because that was because I thought that was even uncharacteristic for me. To say that after the deadline or whatever, but I listened to spirit pushing me to ask that question, and here we are. So it's
I'm so glad you did. I remember I was so excited. And I was like, I know she has something to share here, you know? So, and your chapter is, I saw her standing there and it's the Beatles. And I love the story that you tell. When I was first reading this, and by the way, thank you for being so quick to turn your story around.
Mhm. You're
um,
welcome. I know I understand deadlines.
you knew exactly what you wanted to say. When I read this, it was I mean, I smiled reading it. It took me back to like my own, it was very nostalgic. It took me back to days, when I was a little kid in the basement listening to music with my friends, pretending to sing, pretending to dance. I remember there was one time where I made a video, and we, and this is back in the day when you had like what are those, like the recorder, right? Like, so we set that up and we made this video, and we were, just pretending to do like our own MTV Music Awards. And we just pretended to be different bands and stuff. We're dancing and singing, and we had so much fun doing that. And music was such an integral part of my growing up in that way. So your story really reminded me. It was like a trip back to my childhood.
Yeah. Well, that's so sweet. Well, it started out, my first draft to you was an incomplete draft. And I knew that, but I was at a point in my life that I didn't have the amount of time I had hoped to devote to it. So I thought, I felt like I knew you well enough. I just sent it off and you would give me feedback, and the feedback was awesome. And I took that and shared it with a group of women. We call ourselves the writing, well, I dubbed us the writing mavens, but we've been meeting together for many, many years since I directed the capillary writing project at Penn State. We've been connected in some way, shape, or form, but we meet monthly. And I had taken the first draft to them, and after I did my revisions for you through the process, I took it back, and they were amazing. I mean, they just said, Denise, this is like a perfect example of deep revision. And it was so neat because these are women that they all had robust careers and education. They are all still writers. And for them to recognize the amount of work that went into the revision process, for me as a writer was, just was one, it was just so wonderful to hear. And I don't think I expected my piece to go where it ended up, with age being such a factor. And I think maybe, obviously I'm a senior, as I mentioned in the story, and all of my sisters are seniors now. And I have to honestly say, when I shared it out loud with this group of women that I've been writing with, I actually got, and I'm a Capricorn and can be very buttoned up, emotionally when I need to be. But I actually got tears in my eyes when I read it out loud to them, and they actually had tears as well. I
Love
was
that.
like, oh my gosh, I moved myself, but I moved to this group. And honestly, it was not my intention. I honestly did not think I would respond in the way I did when I heard my words out loud in front of them. But, not that it will have that effect on everybody, but it's certainly, I used to, when I taught English, there would be what I would call the chill factor. And, if I'd read a piece and I would get like full body chills, it
Mm.
was like automatic, "Yay, okay." But everybody brings something so totally different, their life experience and their tastes and that sort of thing to the reading, that who knows how it will resonate with others. But it certainly, I was very proud of the piece when I finished it. And so thank
I
you
love,
for.
yeah, no, thank you. And I love the song that you chose, and just the way that you were able to, it was like walking through your memories, like as I was reading it, I was like, it was like the visual that was coming. I mean, I just felt like I was sort of like, it was like Polaroids, in my mind as I was reading it. And
Right. Well,
like that's powerful.
and I was going to say, as part of the revision, one of the things I know that I did very specifically is, um, I injected a lot of sensory perceptions. And even if I forgot the exact, this is where, when you're a writer, you can embellish a little bit, you have to create a scene. And so if I didn't remember exactly, I was able to pluck some details and put them in. And it really definitely improved, the piece. And so, I'm always, I mean, a writer always says, you're never really finished, but sometimes you just have to send the piece off somewhere. But I was, like I said, was very pleased. And so I appreciate the opportunity. And um, I honor all the writers that have participated in your project, because it's, you're vulnerable when you put your thoughts and feelings out there. So that's, risky. Some people never do. And so I would honor and applaud everybody for doing that. And um, I just even the book launch, when you did the launch, the video, and I had a chance, to meet a few of the other writers. It was really heartwarming to see them and hear the pieces of their stories.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a real interesting journey. So
And I really appreciate your feedback when you got your book in the mail and
mm,
you were like, I think you said something about how you couldn't put it down and you read, it really is like I feel like it's a quick read. Like it's not a lot and you can kind of go from like, you can pick it up in any chapter. And that's what I love about it. Like you can,
mm.
I call it bathroom reading, like, where you can just pick it up and read a chapter or two and come back to it. And you're getting a different experience in every chapter.
No, and I would say to your point that it can be a quick read. I devoured it because I was so excited to read your work and people that I know. That's kind of how I approached it. I read yours and a few others that I know personally whose work is represented in the book. So I did that, and I thought, well, I'm just going to stop there and then listen to the music that goes along with these pieces, but I couldn't honestly put it down. So I read, and then I know I shared with you the next morning. I mean, I just thought it was just beautiful. And I woke up the next morning and I get up very early. I should say my dog gets me up very early, but I think I was up like at 4:30 in the morning or something. And I had a couple pieces that were still wanting my attention. So I went back and reread several of them, and again, bringing my own experience, to the work and the process of reading. There were several, and today I went back and read two pieces again, and I think that I think that says a lot about your, the work and the collection that you've compiled because, there are nuggets in there. And, I won't mention names because I think all of the pieces have a tremendous amount of merit and messages that are important. But I will say that the two I read had one in particular was in today's, I'm just going to say, climate in the world and leave it
Yeah.
at that without getting political, but it has messages about that I think are really valuable. And the other piece that drew me in um, oh, I felt kind of magnetized to this piece. And I will say that it has um, the it's kind of stream of consciousness, I would say, the piece itself, but it has there's like a rhythm or a cadence. And with my interest in music and uh, I'm at like do a lot of drumming and that sort of thing in my work. And so it had this repetition that really just like drew me in. And so I think I've read that piece alone probably 3 or 4 times. And I think there's more in it for me to unlock. And I intend to do that. So now I probably have everybody's curiosity out there. Like, oh, I wonder
I
which
think I know which one you're talking
I'm
about.
sure I'm
For
sure
me,
you
like
do.
having edited and so I had to read everybody's pieces
Mm,
multiple times. I mean, there were some times where just tears, like I'm like crying trying to read this and I'm like, I have to come back to this. But also respecting and just honoring the author's like process in having to like some of the stories and in the retelling of it, I know that it was a lot of emotion that went into that. So I was very cognizant as I was doing that editing process of wanting to give people like holding space but giving people the time that they needed to like revisit these parts of their lives and these stories that they were telling. Like that there was a lot of like deep emotional, like we in one of the interviews that I did with Jen, she said the authors really went there, and I felt
mm.
like everybody did. Like everybody's story was so heartfelt.
Yes, yes, it comes through. It really does. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see where this, where this goes. And well, if there is a second, which I think you're hoping for, and so I just, I see wonderful things down the road for you.
Thank you.
One of the things I know, I don't know if I mentioned to you, I think I did when, excuse me, my nose is running. Um, that when I was in the classroom, I always did a unit called Soundtrack of Your Life. And I would have students uh, plot out, a certain sort of a timeline and pick for every decade, pick a song, or every couple of years for the younger students that I worked with, pick a song that, represented them. And they'd have to go in and sort of analyze it in a way, and make connections to their own life and feelings at the time. And I always enjoyed that, and I know the students did too. And a lot of times, I would always say to them, and even when I work with adults, it would be, you know, you have to choose how far you're going to go there, because it's not appropriate really for everyone. Some people can't, I mean, they don't want to, or can't really. And I may have mentioned in the when you did the launch online, that I had another song in mind, or songs. I have a couple that I didn't feel like I was emotionally ready to like peel back the onion on that.
Same.
Yeah, so maybe, in in time I will, but I would always give my students the opportunity to, like, sort of make their choices based on where they felt, they were emotionally at the time. And I think that's just good practice.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I had probably a list of like 15 songs in a
Wow.
document that I had started bits and pieces of, and some of them were harder. Like I was like, I'm just not. I don't think I can go into that space right now. And for me, this book, I mean, I knew crawling. I knew that I was going to have to talk about that one, like that
Mhm.
one, and my journey, healing PTSD and trauma and all of that. Like I knew that that needed to come out. Um, and then I wasn't expecting, the breakup stuff and the heartbreak that I was going to have to talk about. But I really used it. It was kind of like cathartic, using this book as a way or a tool to help me process all of that. So that kind of just came out naturally. And so other chapters that I thought I was going to write, they didn't get written. So I know they're there. And I'm like, well, there's a volume 2 in there somewhere.
It's great. I hope yes, we're all around to, enjoy that when it when it happens.
Now, I can't remember. Did I send you the e-guide that I created to go with it?
Yeah, I know you created that, and I did receive it, but I haven't
Okay.
opened it or printed it out yet. Yeah, but
Yeah,
I'll be excited.
because when you were talking about the soundtrack of your life, I mean, that's what I really, my hope is when people read this, is that number one, I do hope that people will see themselves in the stories. Because for me, that's always been, I so appreciate people who just keep it real, who are authentic, who share their stories, that I can see myself in those stories and understand, like maybe they articulated something in a way that I couldn't quite put words to. And that helped me to understand myself. So I do hope for that. I mean, I hope people like the soundtrack, the playlist, because there's some great songs on that playlist and it's so diverse. I
It
love that.
really
Like
is.
that, um, there's anything from, like the Beatles to uh, there's a rap song. I mean, there might be a couple. I mean, I love the diversity of this group. Um, and I hope that it encourages people to get curious about the songs that they listen to and the songs that have meant so much in their life, if they want to go there. So,
Yeah. No, I think it definitely does that. It definitely, and I'm sure there's something for everyone. Yeah, you don't need to worry about that. There's something for everyone in this book for sure. And yeah, very, very, honored to be part of it. And there are other opportunities that I've had similar to this, and I have passed them by. So for whatever reason, like I said, Spirit really was nudging me that day to. Because the old me, the little shy, uh, don't use your voice, Denise, would be sitting and wondering, oh, you're going to be rejected, or so don't even ask because then you can protect yourself. I know you get that.
I do.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it was really it was a beautiful reaching out for me, and honored to have
I'm
you.
so glad that you did. I'm so glad that, I wasn't even planning to go to the Spirit of Oneness that day, but I so needed it. And I was like working through like heartbreak stuff, and I was really not feeling like myself. And I don't know, something was just like, you need to get out and go. So
Mhm.
I just did. And I'm so glad that I did, because we might not have connected and then I wouldn't have had your story.
For sure. I haven't shared it. For those of you who haven't read it yet, which I'm sure a lot of people who may see this haven't, but maybe they will reach out and buy themselves a copy on Amazon or go to Barnes and Noble. But my piece talks about a friendship that I had, a female friendship, one of my, like I would say, my first best friend. And I bought a copy of the book so that I could share it with her. And I haven't done that. I wanted to wait until we had this opportunity for the interview. Now that this is just about complete, I want to send her a little note. Thank you for signing her book too. And I did bump into her and tell her about it and that it would be coming. And
Oh, I
um,
love that. Oh, I can't wait to, you'll have to share and let me know. Well,
I
I'd love
will.
things.
I will. She will. Like I said, she'll be delighted. She was like, "I'll buy a copy." I'm like, "No, you won't. I'm buying a copy for you." But yeah, and to tie it back to the trauma, and like I was a very young girl at the time, and my home was sort of topsy-turvy a good bit of the time. And so Anne's mother was this, and her family, they were like this, almost like a lifeline to me, and they were like this solid, safe um, sanctuary, I will call it, for my little heart. And I would go there and just, I could be a beetle in my beetle wig, and we could be, dancing in her basement like we didn't have a care in the world while all these other things were going on. So, I want to thank and honor them for the role that they played in my life.
That's beautiful.
Thank
Well, I
you.
really appreciate you sharing your story. I appreciate you so much being a part of this project. This is definitely a passion project. And, I'd love it if, when it's time to do round two, if you want to share
Mm,
anything else.
okay, yeah, I'm sure I'm already thinking of a couple that really need to be written that I haven't, like I said, didn't feel emotionally ready to get to. But yeah, that might be just the push I need to, put those down in words.
And so, like Denise mentioned, anybody that is looking to get a copy themselves, Mixtape Memories is available on Amazon. You can also get it on barnesandnoble.com. It will be available on at other retailers. It's kind of rolling out. And then there's also an ebook that's available. And on my website, I did create like a digital guide if you're interested in like exploring your own playlist and what songs might have meant to you, and digging a little bit into, the meaning behind them. And especially those songs that when you hear them, like that they've stuck with you, over time. Um, I do love how, and I think I talk about this in one of my chapters, is how music can change over time. Like the song Crawling for me. I mean, that song, whatever, that was such a cathartic song. And then now that I'm like on this sort of other side of that journey, it just doesn't, it doesn't evoke the same emotion, but it does allow me to see my growth and see my progress. And so I think music is such a beautiful love language, and it's something that regardless of where you come from, where your age is, it's something that connects all of us. So yeah, thank you for being here. And can you tell anybody that might be interested in connecting with you where they can find you?
Sure. I see clients in my healing expressive art studio in Elizabethtown. But if you're interested, you could just go to denisevanbriggle.com and see what some of my sessions that I offer look like. And if you're interested, please feel free to reach out. I would love to see you.
I was thinking this morning, I was like, I should schedule a session with her. So you might hear from me soon.
That would be lovely. I'm always looking forward to seeing you
Because
wherever.
we all have, we got to support each other. So
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you for the opportunity, today to chat with you. I enjoyed it very much and look forward to our next opportunity whenever that happens.
same. All right. And anybody who has been with us, please feel free to like and subscribe. And if you do pick up a copy, I would love to hear your feedback. So, yeah. All right. Thank you all.
Thanks for joining me for this episode of All the Things.